Hello, and welcome back to Thomas Frank Explains. In this Notion Fundamentals lesson, we are talking all about how to edit and format your text inside of Notion. You're going to learn how to quickly apply formatting at the speed of thought using Markdown, and also use some of the other tricks Notion provides for you, such as their keyboard shortcuts, their editing toolbar that comes up when you highlight text, and you'll even learn some cool tricks you can use with Notion's / command. Fittingly, we're going to take the example page we created in the last lesson, bring it over here, and add some of these formatting tricks to it, so we create a more full-featured page. So, if you want to get the resources for this course, including the example template that you can download and start editing, go over to thomasjfrank.com/fundamentals. That is the homepage for this course. There you're going to find written versions of every single lesson, along with all those supplemental materials that you can start using to work alongside me. With all that being said, let's dive into the lesson. Okay, so as you can see on the screen here, we have quite a few different ways of formatting text in Notion. This isn't all of them, but it is a good sampling here. And as I mentioned in the intro, you've got several different ways to achieve this formatting, one of which is called Markdown. What is Markdown? I did put that here in the title. Well, Markdown, as I'm going to explain in more detail in a second, is a way to format text as you type. And in Notion, it's really cool. So for example, I can start typing and I can bold text on the fly. I can even italicize it. I can make headers, or I can even make bullet lists. And the way that I can do this is by using Markdown. So what is Markdown? Well, as you can see here from this little demonstration, Markdown is a method for me to add little formatting syntax to my text, which actually formats that text on the fly, or at least it does in Notion. Traditionally, Markdown was syntax that was added in plain text, and then you run that plain text through either a script or some kind of preview window in a Markdown editor to see your formatting. And I'll give you an example here by looking at a more traditional Markdown editor called Dellinger. There are a lot of these out here, but Dellinger is an interesting one we can look at, and you can find it over at dellinger.io if you're curious. But this is what you usually see in a more traditional Markdown editor. You've got on the left here an editing window where we write all of our syntax in plain text. And then over here, we have a preview window where we actually see our formatting. We see our headers, we see our bolding, we see our bullet lists, all that good stuff. I can't edit this, so I have to do my editing over here. And the purpose of this is twofold. Number one, you can edit your text and add your formatting in literally any program. Notepad, a code editor like Atom, a Markdown editor like Dellinger, anything that can let you write plain text and save plain text Markdown files is fair game for editing Markdown files. And then traditionally you would throw it through some sort of script or export from a Markdown editor and you'd get your nice fancy formatting. Notion does things a little bit differently. Notion has a Markdown editor, but it's a what you see is what you get Markdown editor, or a WYSIWYG editor. So when I apply my formatting, like if I want to make something italic like this, it just instantly becomes italic, and that's really nice. One thing that's useful to know is that if you copy plain text that has Markdown formatting, so let's just copy all of this text, and you paste that into Notion, for the most part, that formatting is going to be respected. So if I just paste this here, you're going to see that all the formatting is there. We've got bolding, we have a heading, we have a block quote, we have some list elements here. So if you have Markdown that you've written elsewhere, you can paste it right into Notion and you're going to see that formatting. But what I want to show you how to do is actually write Markdown syntax within Notion so you get used to it and you can actually start formatting your text using it on the fly. So the first thing that I want to show you is a reference page that I created. So if you're on the thomasjfrank.com/fundamentals homepage and you get over to this Notion Fundamentals course hub here in Notion, you can come to this writing system lesson page here. And we've got a Notion Markdown reference. You're also going to see this Markdown reference in the blog post version of this lesson, but this one is here in Notion, and you can copy it into your own workspace if you want a reference of your own. So these are all the different things that you can do in Notion using Markdown. You can create different levels of headings using the pound key. You can italicize text, you can bold text, add strike-throughs, do pre-formatting, and you can also use Markdown formatting to create some different types of blocks. We're going to talk about this more thoroughly in the next lesson about blocks, but in Notion you have text blocks, but you also have other kinds of blocks. So an unordered list, that's a specific type of block. An ordered list is a specific type of block. I think it's called a numbered list here in Notion. To-dos are blocks, block quotes are blocks, toggle blocks are blocks. But instead of having to use the slash command and pick them for these types of blocks, there is a very quick Markdown shortcut that you can just type and create them. So that's really nice. But Markdown is not the only option that you have. There are also a few other ways to format text in Notion, and we're going to cover those now. So let's go over to this other formatting page where you're going to see I have a plain text version of this little article that I had written in Dillinger before. And if you want to start formatting things, you don't have to use Markdown. There are quite a few other ways to do it. For one, you can simply use your typical keyboard shortcuts. So for example, if I highlight this text right here and I hit Control or Command B, I'm going to bold that text. If I come over here to find yourself sleeping too late, and hit Control I, that's going to be italicized. If I want to come down here and for some reason I want to underline, I could do Control U and that text is going to be underlined. So there are a lot of keyboard shortcuts. We cannot go over all of them in this video because there are a lot. So what I will let you know is that there is a Learn the Shortcuts page in the official Notion documentation. I'll have that linked in the written version of this video. And there is a whole list of different keyboard shortcuts that you can start learning. A lot of these are going to be very useful for navigating your workspace. For example, my favorite one is probably the control brackets for going back and forward throughout my workspace, but there are also quite a few keyboard shortcuts for applying formatting to your text, so that's useful to know. You can also use this little edit toolbar that comes up when you highlight text. So if I'm going to highlight this line, I get this whole edit toolbar here, and I can do quite a lot with this. I can add comments, I can add links, but I can also apply formatting. So if I want to bold this, if I want to italicize it, I can do all of that. I can even turn it into a code block or an equation. But what I really want to do with this is turn it into a heading. And just like with bullet lists and numbered lists, headings are their own type of block. So I'm going to go over here and change this from text into heading 1. And I know earlier from pasting this in that this right here needs to be a heading 2. So we can go down here and turn this into a heading 2. So you can use that edit toolbar to do a lot of different formatting things that you could also do with keyboard shortcuts or Markdown. Now, one little trick that I didn't plan on showing in this video, but I might as well, is turning multiple blocks into something else. So I know this water, sunlight, movement, I want that to be a numbered list. So if I highlight all of these blocks, you're going to see that all the blocks got selected, not just the text. Then I can go to this little button here and I can turn these into a numbered list. So that is a way to transform a block. And the other way that you can start formatting text is by using the slash command. Now we're going to talk about this much more in detail in the next lesson, but if you type slash in Notion, you get this menu where you can insert all kinds of different blocks. It is probably the Notion feature you're going to be using more than any other once you get used to it. But what you can also do with the slash command is turn existing blocks into something else. And there are a couple of different things you can do in terms of text formatting along these lines. So up here, I remember that this line right here was not supposed to be underlined, but it was supposed to be a bullet list item. So if I just click anywhere in this block and I type slash, and then I start typing turn, then I'm going to get this turn into menu. I can also simply type slash and I can scroll way down and find it. It's going to be right here, but it's so much easier to just type slash turn. And then I've got all these different options here. So I can scroll to pick one. I can use my arrow keys to arrow down, or if I just keep typing, like turn BUL for bulleted list, I'm going to eventually highlight the one that I want, and then I can just hit enter to turn that into a bulleted list. So I could do that for all these if I want to. And now I've got my bulleted list. I'm going to go ahead and tab that one in and we are good to go. Another cool thing you can do with the slash command is add color or background color to a block. So let's make this a little bit more stylish by typing red. And you're going to see I get the color red as my first thing. But if I type space B, then it's going to assume I want the background. And I've got all these different background options here. So if I click that, now I've formatted that with red. So using what we know now, let's go over to our sample page, which is we're going to call sample page stage 2, and start adding some formatting. Remember in the first lesson we had this very simple text page, but now we're going to want to actually add some few things. So I know that a book title needs to be italicized. So I can go ahead and add my asterisks on either side of that word, and boom, it is going to become italicized. The sky above the port was the color of television. That's a quote. So if I just come to the beginning of this line and type a quote in space, I'm going to turn that into a block quote. I know I have a couple of other things here. So Matrix, Ghost in the Shell, Cyberpunk 27, Deus Ex. I'm going to go ahead and hit Command I to italicize all of those. And coming down here, we have read, watch, and consume widely. I know that's actually a heading, so I'm going to go ahead and do ## to create an H2 and break up my article a little bit. And with this one, why don't we just do type red B to give you a red background just because. Oh, we've got ARPANET down here. Well, it doesn't really need pre-formatted text, but I think it'll look cooler if I give it pre-formatted text. Maybe I also want to come up here and add another H2 at the top for introduction and a little preview from the next week's lesson, but I'm gonna go ahead and put a table of contents there, and look, it finds all my headings and I can easily click and zoom to specific headings, which is pretty sweet. So we have now gone from a very simple text-only page to a much more nicely formatted page where we can, parse the text a little bit more easier, it looks a bit more interesting, and that's going to allow us to go into the next lesson to start adding multimedia elements and additional blocks. All right, so that's about gonna do it for this lesson. Hopefully you found this helpful, and hopefully all the Markdown formatting tricks and the other tricks we talked about, the keyboard shortcuts, everything in this lesson is gonna help you get a little bit closer to being able to write and take notes and generally get content into Notion at the speed of thought. That's a really foundational concept here, because if you wanna make Notion a second brain or build it into an all-in-one productivity system, then you wanna cut down as much as possible on the friction it takes to get things into that system. As always, you can go over to thomasjfrank.com/fundamentals, which is the homepage for this free Notion course. And there you're going to be able to, well, number one, get written versions of every single lesson as they release. And this one may be especially helpful because it does have that Markdown reference table in it. You're also going to be able to get all the supplemental information and resources for this course. There will be templates, there'll be example pages, there will be reference pages within Notion. So check all those out. And you'll have the opportunity to get on my Notion Tips email list, where I will let you know when new videos go live here on Thomas Frank Explains, and also send you additional Notion tips. In the next lesson, we are talking about blocks, which is one of the other foundational features in Notion. You got pages and you got blocks. So that is going to be one of the most important lessons in this course. Hopefully I will see you there. As always, if you have questions, I'm on Twitter @TomFrankly. Ask me over there or ask me in the comment section down below, and I will do my best to answer them. See you in the next lesson.